Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here, the man who talks to machines. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to cover here what's going on as in the regards to UFOs, and that's the correct term. Using the term anomaly really clouds the issue, and of course, we should expect this, and we should expect the general mouthpieces out there to continue to use that terminology that they were told to use. This is comical. But what's been happening, of course, we're all looking for change. Supposedly, I don't really think we are. I think we're just looking for people that agree with our opinion, which you think the rest of the world isn't ran by. But the world is running pretty much by what people want out there. And there certainly is enough people out there that if they wanted to change things, could. And that never happens. One of the biggest issues that's came out here in the major changes we're going through. But are we going through major changes? There's a lot of flag waving, a lot of stomping of feet, a lot of talking, and change is not really coming in many aspects. The only reason we have any change whatsoever, whether you agree with it or not, is because of the president who is pushing his will and opinions on the world, which is shooken up, a dirty, filthy world. And now all the dust is coming off that cloth you just shook in the wind. Because of the fact that it has to do mostly with trade. The other things are still the do-nothing world is more than happy to keep doing nothing as long as the sucker, the United States, has their blood and money there. Which, of course, causes corruption on both sides. It certainly doesn't help the United States act better in the world stage if they have these kind of non-cooperative so-called allies. And I think everybody should understand, which the important change that we find out there is that the United States and Americans have no allies. And, of course, Americans don't support anybody, and they certainly don't support other Americans. So this is a sad situation. And when someone comes out and says that, which is basically what the current president is doing, they are attacked for being American. That's because you think you're not an American, because you think you're something else, while everybody else understands exactly where they come from and what they are. But this adds up to the problems that we're having now with this so-called disclosure. Again, when this came out many years ago, and it continues to be out there, this disclosure about UFOs, they keep asking the same people that are hiding information from them, who cheated and lied to them, who have created this giant can of worms that basically can't be opened because of the criminality that was committed over the last 50, 60 years, if not longer. These people are not going to come out and say, yeah, we're in on this conspiracy because of the fact that there are legalities here, meaning the fact that they've all committed a bunch of crimes. But moving away from that as the bigger picture, to think that you're going to get some sort of disclosure from the same people that hide things from you is comical. And who do we have coming out here as usual in these fields? And I've recently watched Hal Puthoff on the Joe Rogan show. And of course, as we get from everything, like the two new UFO, if you can call those new UFO movies that recount things that happened in the 40s and 50s, and there's virtually no new information in them whatsoever. And when you listen to Hal Puthoff, he comes out with the same CIA cleared story, where Joe McConnell identified a so-called Russian submarine being built. This was, of course, 50 years ago, and it's the same old story you always hear. No new stories, no anything else, because this is what they've been cleared to say. Now, the point is that you can't listen to anybody that is under the thumb of legal agreements. And we don't even have to say government or anything else, but if these people were working for a corporation and the corporation told you that what you discover you cannot give to the public, well, it's the same thing. And to a certain extent, I understand this because of the fact that whether it's a corporation or the government, they paid you to do research, and they own that. So if researchers can come out and take the ideas that someone else paid for, and could be, and it goes with Hal Puthoff and SRI with Russell Targ, supposedly 20 years of research, and this continues, which I'm sure it does, because it's so cheap. The bottom line is that they don't own it. And this is a problem, as I said, even if this was not governmental. You're under the fact that, look, we own this. We're paying you to do this research. You're working on our dime, and that's the reality of it. So while I think we can all disagree with this on a very deep level because these things are so important, the bottom line is that's business. When it comes to government is that there's the secrecy clause, which of course is money that we all pay for, enables them to do whatever they want and then not tell the people who paid for all this. So we are the paying for anything that is governmental, yet we don't get any of that information even 40 and 50 years later. Now, if we go through this, we can all look at it and say, well, what is the harm of this ultimately? Well, there's a great harm of this because it creates a whole stigma around the information. The fact of not releasing very potent information proving these kind of abilities, which has been out there for 150 years now, creates an aura of you're not talking because you have nothing to report, meaning that there is no such thing. And I see this all the time from people, and they will ultimately come up with this excuse that there is no proof of anything. Nobody has any documented research with it and everything else, even though we have 150 years of research and we have 50, 60 years of research done by very credible scientists funded by governmental agencies that are being ignored. So this, as I said, the harm of this is that people don't look at that as that this is secret and nothing can be talked about, which really should give you the opposite viewpoint that they're not talking about it because they are getting amazing results. But in general, since society is negative and evil, they're thinking that, well, this is just a joke. It's comical. And everybody says this because of their brainwashing about what is possible and not possible. And this has been generated from basically religions which want to keep you under the thumb of whatever or whomever God you want to believe in. The bottom line is religion thought is that you don't get involved in personal empowerment. You allow your God to guide and help you along your path because they know better. Now, you've got to understand that. You know, that flows out of my mouth easily and into your ears and goes down the toilet. You don't understand how potent that is. So the bottom line, if it doesn't happen from the king, the head of the corporation, or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't exist. And we don't want you going outside to get information. Now, here again, this is a serious problem, and the entire world works like this. And since it's been shunned upon, called evil, etc., to have natural abilities that, if you believe in God, would be providing you. These are things that every human being has in a very similar structure of human consciousness, human brain, etc., and all of the energy fields that the way life really works. I mean, energy fields is the essence of all matter. And it's as simple as that. And when you, this is all created same in everyone and everything which has an energy field, no matter what it is. A rock has an energy field. So the whole idea is that we have to understand that, but we don't. You have the dogma because you've got two religions battling each other, basically for the dollars they live on and put food in their mouth and put a roof over their head, which is scientists and, of course, your religious boobs. So all of these people are living in a delusion, hurting the greater society. And that's why nothing will ever change. So all the change that we talk about really is no change at all. They're very simple little baby steps that don't get us anywhere. In the 1960s into the 1970s, there was a massive interest in extrasensory perception, psychic power, etc. We had this huge growth. I mean, to the point that we had actually toys in the stores that were based on ESP, and many of them, by the way. And these toys sold well. There was also the huge publishing of tens of thousands of books on this subject, which continues to this day. And of course, that's what the change did. It opened up a lot of doors so people could find this literature easily to a degree. There was a lot of shutting of these doors that happened in the 80s when the very conservative right-wingers took over because they grabbed the vote, the Reagan times. Reagan, who was a big believer in astrology, closed a lot of those doors. And they made the doors not only something that was ridiculous to study and had no value, which is what they still claim today, but they demonize it, saying that anything to do with psychic power and in that area is evil. It goes so far as that I employed a person who was a radical Christian, stupidly, but I didn't know it at the time, and they couldn't even spell psychic because it was a word to them that was like demon. This is how bad it is. And this is all because of the fact that everything has to come literally from that one source to tell you how to do everything. And of course, we can see how wonderful the world is that actually works. People are not doing it, and Christians in particular are being murdered by the hundreds, if not thousands, every day. And we have nothing to say about that or anybody even commenting on it. So this is the kind of silliness that goes with all that. But all religions are bad, and they all think they're special, and they give you nothing. Certainly we've had, everything has failed. Science has failed, religion has failed, and government has failed. It's as simple as that. And we have to understand that for one reason or another. Most of this is because of corruption. We do have excellent laws that take care of everything, but they're not enforced, or if they are enforced, they're enforced improperly, to just basically hurt people. So the whole idea is that, and to keep the status quo. And of course, the public is more than happy to jump on that. We need massive changes in industry, particularly in transportation. And so people laud someone who comes out and gives us old junky technology that doesn't solve the problem whatsoever. And technically, the manufacture of electric cars creates more pollution than the cars we have today. And we could easily filter the exhaust coming out of cars down to zero, which has already been done 25 years ago by several people and was even sold on the market by Ford, who put out a zero emission car. And this was 25, 30 years ago. So it's not something that can't be done or anything else. But if we're going to laud, give praise to the next genius like Elon Musk, one who's come out with nothing, we have the solution, and we continue to poop on it and flush it down the toilet, called hydrogen. And there are many hydrogen cars, and they've been around for 40 years or even later than that. In production, there's not a single automobile manufacturer that doesn't have a working hydrogen car. Think about that. But it's free energy, and nobody wants free. You want to plug it into the wall, don't you? You want to keep paying those people and burning that oil. And what does that do for anybody? But society thinks, oh, it's wonderful, something that was invented about 120 years ago. So we got to keep that in mind, or I think it's 40 now. I lose track of when all these things. It's amazing how, hydrogen cells, I think, were invented in 1890 or something, 1880s. It's quite interesting how all this technology that people claim is new is very old, and it's just a matter of making it better and applying it to modern problems. So when we get into this whole UFO disclosure thing, I should say UFO non-disclosure and never will be disclosed, we have the same cast of characters that are saying the same things they said 40, 50 years ago. We've had 2 new films come out, and none of these have any new information or startling information. All these people claim to have more information, but they can't release it. Well, then what's the point at all? If you're going to come out and say there's extraterrestrials and show us stuff from the 1940s, well, what does that really do? We still don't have any really venue for anybody that discovers anything to place it out there that can't be instantly seized and deleted, which happens with all the mediums where you post videos and so forth. They're highly controlled, and you're never going to get anything out there of any value. Yet these people don't seem to have anything of value. The people involved in all this stuff have a long history of non-disclosure. They're worse than the government. So basically, they claim to have all this information, but they can't talk about it. Lou Alexandro is one of the biggest person who insults our intelligence by not providing anything. He's been in this field for over 15 years professionally, and all he seems to be is a mouthpiece for the government. He still has his own, as he stated recently in an interview, he still has his government clearance. He's an ex-government employee like all these people are. They're all cannot talk legally. They're unable to talk about any of this stuff because this is part of the actual agreements they have. Now, it would be interesting to find out how many people have actually been grabbed and thrown in prison that we haven't heard about for breaking secrecy laws. These people are allowed to exist because they are the kettle pot. They allow the steam off of situations by people going to them, watching them, and you leave with, huh? Nothing was said there of anything, but I think he's on our side. This is what you run into with everything. So basically, they're just a pressure valve for the men. All of them, Stephen Greer, etc. All these people claim stuff, they know stuff, but they can't talk about it. Well, why do we need you then? I mean, the government's already saying that. We don't need you to come out and say that. These organizations, particularly the one that Alexandro's connected to, I forget the name of that. I wouldn't give them publicity anyway. Started by Delon, the rock band leader, and their existence. They've come out with absolutely nothing. They're coming out with government footage, and they claim, well, we brought you the Tic Tac stuff, which has been around for years. None of this is any new, and none of it's startling. Who cares? It's just, it's mental masturbation with these ridiculous photographs that, oh yeah, it's a phenomenon, so what? And of course, that's why they've changed the word to anomaly. Because anomaly means anything different. Yeah, it's swamp gash. So the whole idea is the same old story that we hear and have been hearing for 50, 60 years that goes on forever. So these are the kind of things that continue to perpetrate the media out there and bring us absolutely nothing. So we're never going to get any answers from these people. And we keep going to the person, the crook, who's already stolen money from us and asking for our money back and then wanting to do more deals with them because that was just an anomaly that we were ripped off by them. So Lou Alexander's come up with nothing. An entire organization that has been around for many years now has produced nothing but old military footage that are gained from the government. It's not new. It's not from someone else. And I would assume that this organization has thousands of people that have contacted them and they produce nothing out there. He's afraid to say anything, Lou Alexandro, because he still has his clearance. He still works for the government indirectly, apparently. This is frightening to think that someone who's a researcher, they trust enough to keep giving him a pseudo clearance, whatever that may be. But they've come up with nothing, and they play the same game like Greer does. I know everything, I can't release it, and they're trying to kill me. So they all have this security and everything else. They have produced nothing. Greer has produced nothing as well. Again, 20, 30 years with nothing more than some goofball pictures that prove nothing. The only person who's produced some sort of evidence in their particular area, which again is meaningless to a large degree, but at least it's something, is the Bledsoes. Now, Bledsoe has had this, which again isn't new. I've witnessed these orbs 30, 40 years ago. They pop up all over the place. I've seen them from 300, 400 feet away, and they go in certain areas. They pop up all the time. Where you get these colored orbs. These were big, large green balls of energy that would fly across different areas and across freeways and everything else. And then apparently seem to go back into the ground. Maybe that's where they came from. This is nothing new. Orbs have been seen by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of millions of people all the time. Now, Bledsoe stated that he's actually seen entities pop out of these things, and this is how they transport themselves. Well, this would make sense as well. You would use an energy ball to send down people, similar to a transporter machine, where you would then, in Star Trek, that we would send people down in this non-physical reality that they then would become physical. It's as simple as that. So it makes sense. And recently, Bledsoe, of course, and there's a lot, there's a lot of phenomena that he seems to be producing, and a lot of it is tied to very negativity. People get sick and die. Then there's, the stories are endless. Then there's healing that supposedly happened. And he recently had a meeting at a beach somewhere, and he was able to call the orbs that produced in the sky. Many of them, I don't know if it was about 50, 60 orbs were in the sky there, which are basically just big balls of light. There seems to be no intelligence factors to them. Some are big, some are small. They are 50, 100 miles away. They don't really do anything but sit there. And while this is fascinating on one degree, what does it mean? If these are entities and they claim they can communicate with them, why aren't they coming closer and showing themselves to a group of people? How is this in any way going to hurt them whatsoever? I don't see how this would. And the fact of them making contact with larger groups of people, while this may be seen as a great threat by the government, I don't see how that affects them, because this group that Bledsoe is connected to basically has already shunned the government, showing their wisdom. But the stories you get with this are basically frightening. They present themselves as God forms, and they really help do anything? Supposedly they've healed some people. Other people go close to these orbs and they die because they get some sort of radiation poisoning, which seems to be connected to a lot of these orbs, and even UFO crafts. There's a long history of this. And I have to think that this is more government created if we're dealing with toxic energies, unless for one reason or another, this kind of radiation, which space is full of, by the way, if space is entirely radiated, it's a very dangerous place to spend time in, and you need constant shielding. Have they overcome this because that's the nature of where they come from? Well, we have no answers to that either. But radiation poisoning must be something that is handled by these people that are doing all this, especially since they're kind of in the middle of it all, coming in an orb. But from all the reports and everything, and it's very difficult to follow this stuff. You can spend a lot of time. I haven't read Bledsoe's book, but I have it. I do have it on my Kindle, and I intend on reading it. And we have the same problem with everything. The fact is, it comes through Bledsoe's very primitive, childish mind and his belief in comic book gods. Similar to the scientists who believe in comic book mathematics to explain. We explain the world through numbers. And then, of course, they take these numbers and they put them in the Bible, saying, well, it's Bible numbers. The more stupidity that we have out there with all that. So it never really ends, but nothing's ever going to be disclosed. People have put some money into this to produce these documentaries are the same people who are also doing healing type work, selling very expensive machines, which seem to have minimal results. So we have a constant spinning in a circle of disinformation done by a lot of low-level, ignorant, non-evolved people. And they group together and they get celebrities. Apparently, a lot of celebrities like to put their name onto a lot of stuff that is silly just because of the fact that it's publicity. And I guess it benefits them. And the problem is, since we don't really have any real research, and I'm not, if we bring the government in to do real research with their egg-headed, buffoonish fools called scientists, we're not going to get any better results either. They're coming in very prejudiced. And then it comes down to the fact that if the government does it, you're only allowed to release a certain amount of information. And this is where we get into the negativity again. So the fact that when you have people like Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff, who've been doing this for 40, 50 years, and they don't release any information, and what they do talk about is really comical garbage. Listening to Hal Puthoff on 2 hours of Joe Rogan hurt my ears. How much vacuous non-statements can you get? And a lot of misinformation that he put out as well, that he does deliberately because he's told to do that. And of course, let's give the same story about finding the submarine again from the remote viewers. Yeah, we've heard that a billion times. It's just old nonsense. And you hear this constantly, and they've got it into the consciousness of the public because they've repeated it so long. So non-disclosure is going to be here. It's going to be here forever. Nobody's going to admit. The people that are now talking about they have investors. They're going to get these ETs and find out what their technology is and make money from it, which is certainly a low-level pursuit in general. Of course, after all, they're all government agents. How bright are these people? Is going to go nowhere. But they're going to make lots of money. And all of these people are in this reality that they're producing nothing. They've had plenty of time to do it, and they have plenty of funds. They are not allowed to. Nobody's going to go up against the government who can walk into your house based on these charges, arrest you without a trial or anything else, and you just disappear. It's not going to happen. These people are told this, and there's a huge arm of the law, you could call it, that's going to enforce this kind of thing that they don't want. Anything that goes out, anybody that talks is allowed to do it because everything is monitored, and they have so many people in the public realm for this as well. So the whole idea is the fact that if you don't enforce it, someone else will. Some big media company will not allow your stuff out there or will marginalize you, which is a game they play. Well, we didn't take it off. Yeah, you just can't find it. So this is the reality in a world that has billions of informational documents, whether they're video, audio, etc., that are just thrown into the tub of billions of other ones. That's a great way to hide it. And this happens all the time. So it continues to do this, and you continue to find the false connections that come to it. So we're not going to get disclosure from the people who have been hiding to us in the past. They continue to hide it, and they will continue to. Letting to have a little escape valve, a little pressure valve where you get people like this. And they've been doing this for 10 or 15 years. So has Greer, who's famous for all this stuff and people give credibility to, and who's now new in popularity because there's more talk about this. None of it's going to come out. Greer's been mixing with government elite for all of his career. Banging off the fact that he is a medical physician, and somehow that gives him credibility. So the whole idea is that this is what is going on, and this is what's so horrific about all of this. There is no disclosure going to happen. Nobody's going to bring ETs and bring them and have a news conference with them. It's not the fact that this would upset the public, but it opens up a can of worms where you just can't, government can't say, well, okay, we've done it, forget about it, let's go on to starting more wars of doing that. Let's keep dealing with our same traitorous people that we've dealt with for the last 50 years who want to suck the money and blood out of America. Let's continue our policy because we get rich from it. So this reality is something that is never going to change. And this is just another little step forward. Somebody could come forward tomorrow. How do you think that's going to, you're going to post that someplace? Do you own that company? And even if you did, do you think your servers aren't somebody else isn't going to shut those down? Do you actually think they don't have influence on all the medias and they can't contact them saying this is a security risk and that means you're breaking federal law and that means you can go to prison for the rest of your life? Do you really think the executives in these companies are going to do anything? They certainly are not. Certainly none of these people have ever come out and tried to do that except for Trump, who tried to release some information. He's the only one that's ever done it. Everybody else is a mouthpiece for the government, and they are not releasing anything. This is another one of those well-kept secrets, like the huge corruption that is infected all of society and that 99% of the people are involved with. This is all part of the bigger picture. And when it opens up, the entire society would collapse because you'd pretty much have to arrest 90% of the population because they're involved in criminal activities. So there's a lot of problems here. The other thing is to think that extraterrestrials are going to solve our problems is asking a lot of somebody to come here and do things. So the way it's happening now makes a lot of sense. Also, the fact that they really aren't showing themselves and directly getting involved with much societal stuff. Bledsoe not only has dangers from these orbs, that if you get too close to them, you get sick and die. If you read through the entire literature and what's going on there, the fanciful and story that he likes to state is filled with horrible dangers. The fact that we want to be cured from everything, which is our number one problem as human species, of how sick we are, is something that the extraterrestrials are constantly asked to do. Are they going to do this? Are they going to set up things? And if it's, let's say, they give a technology over to the government, will that be given to the public? You think so? Has it happened in the past? If we want to take it from the physicist viewpoint, or the Bayesian viewpoint, like Sean Carroll likes to talk about, meaning that it's happened before, it'll happen again, then we can say that the actual reality, that if anything's given to a governmental structure which is controlled by guns and gangs, that this will get to the populace, and they won't tell you, well, the aliens lied to us, they cheated us. A great TV show everybody should watch is Earth, the Final Conflict. That was out about 25 years ago, where aliens came here and worked with the populace. Very, very interesting, and I think based on a Gene Roddenberry's short story, I believe, but it was extremely well written and well done of what happens when a culture comes here. And part of it was the healing. And ultimately, it showed that the aliens really couldn't heal. And while they healed people for short periods of time, that healing didn't last. Or was it meant not to last? So all of this is something to really give food for thought. So people should really look up that show. I'm assuming you can find it. I know you can buy it on disc, but it must be around somewhere. And a lot of these things are great ways to kind of figure out what's going on if you look at them from an intellectual viewpoint of what would happen. There's a couple of TV programs that were like that, and they're very good, which show you what would happen if an alien race came here. Very fascinating shows that really go in depth. Well, reading books are a very difficult way to gain information and understand them. Well, a lot of times these TV shows within an hour can give you a fascinating food for thought. While I can't buy into the total concept, they're certainly very interesting, and that show is extremely well done. So was another show, I can't remember the name of it, which was based on a movie, which was a TV series on Fox for a few years. So this is very fascinating, these type of things, but we're not going to, it's a time of non-disclosure, not disclosure. The same cast of characters, the same people out there, the same pawns, the same control people are talking again, and they're giving you the same repetitive information. They state the same things that happened at Roswell, that happened with the screened and released from the CIA itself, the finding of a submarine, which I'm not sure is even true, by McGonagall, who has been shown on film to be 100% wrong, by the way. He was filmed in a documentary about 30 years ago, and they had him paired against a psychic, and he got everything wrong. The psychic got everything right. So these are the problems we look at, and what we have to understand, that we're in non-disclosure times. All of the openings up that we've had and all of the things we're learning are tiny little baby steps, which most likely will be reversed as soon as Trump has left office. And this is one of the problems. We will continue to go back to have silly complacency where we're robbed, beaten, and murdered, while other people laugh at us and benefit from that because it makes it easy because we don't have to pay a little extra taxes. As Trump said recently, well, maybe you only have to have a couple of dolls for Christmas instead of having 50 of them, where you're basically rewarding governments who are raping and robbing us. But you're an American, that's fine. I love it. I'm an American. I love everybody else but my own country. That's the way it is. Oh, it's wonderful. So the whole idea is we're going to run into all these things, which is so typical of the American culture, which is very self-destructive. No one else thinks like that except the United States. But you cannot maintain a society with this. We've reached the end through lies and deceits, which was done by the former president, who just keeps selling the old tune. And it's not just one particular group. It's all of it. Political people are in there for their own personal gain, and nothing comes from it. And of course, you're always going to have problems. And of course, we all know that the current president is kind of a little bit weird dude. But we'll have to see where all this, the old policies and working the old ways, which have been going on for 100 years, don't work. And basically, what happens is you had people spending $1 trillion every month, more than we have, to fund stuff that doesn't work. And again, this has nothing to do with politics. It's just a statement of fact. But the whole idea is it's all tied together. If you think you're going to get anything from these cast of characters who are, again, they think that they're doing something special by creating a corporation, well, the bottom line is what they're creating is a public venue that they are responsible to. So that really means that they have to put out something to make money. And that's what they're doing. So you would think that would help because you have funds, but it's not. They've come out here recently and saying they're forming this corporation. They have all this money. I forget that guy's name. And nothing has happened. We don't even have a decent picture. The so-called egg-shaped UFOs are a new phenomena that people don't understand. We don't even know what these things are. These are not your traditional UFOs that we're seeking information on, nor do these things seem to have any occupants conveniently. They seem to be unoccupied drone-type things with little or no purpose. So finding these things and looking at them has no value to us, and they all seem to be very toxic on top of it, which may be designed as well. People who mess with this stuff die. So you kind of take care of the situation because they all get sick, including the person who's supposedly going out and taking care of this now. They're all sick. They've been toxified. They're all government agents. I mean, what can we possibly expect from this? I think this is the height of stupidity to have this kind of person. But who do we go to? Who cannot be blackmailed? Who's going to give us the right information? Well, the problem there is that is really, there is nobody. So this is a pursuit that we should move into other areas. We need people to do research to a certain degree, but all this research will be infected, changed by the time it gets to you and me because of the legality problems. We're not going to change this with a new governmental administration. We're not going to change this because we have a few people screaming they want it to happen and want to give disclosure. I mean, the only person who's done anything was Trump, who released the JFK documents and other ones. There are some major things going on now which are given no credit for at all. Apparently, they're going to take a lot of chemicals out of our food, etc. This is all extremely important, which has to be done, which nobody has done at all. And of course, there is no such thing as the Trump Party or the Republican Party. Trump is a deviant part of that party only because he has to be. He is not supported by that party or anyone else, and they're not doing anything that are really important. Who can argue that we should have toxic chemicals in our foods, colors, etc., that don't do anything, which can be replaced by non-toxic chemicals? And that goes for anything that goes with the food. But you have a mass amount of traders, people that don't see themselves as part of the American population or the American dream, who are just into the American money. And they will sell anybody out. What they don't understand is nobody wants these people either. But their money will buy them, but certain places in some zone of corruption where they can buy everybody off. But these things are a horrible problem. So hopefully you understand we're in a time of non-disclosure.